from start to finish, what do you do here?
So what we do, we take in hemp that is grown and dried by farmers, and we process that into CBD oil through extraction, and then we take that extract and create products that would be packaged and consumed by end users. Industrial hemp, which is what we process here, has THC less than 0.3%. Marijuana is generally bred for THC content, and industrial hemp is bred against THC content and for CBD content. What we're trying to do here is create a very pure CBD extract that has no risk of the psychoactive effects from THC. So it would take an incredible amount of this to have a psychoactive effect and have enough THC to create any mental changes. I think that the levels are low enough that you shouldn't be failing a drug test. That said, the amount of quality control in the CBD industry is very low right now, and so it may just be a processor who's not doing their job properly and putting out a product that is higher than it should be. Everyone knows CBD, everyone knows THC, but those are actually 2 of over 120 cannabinoids produced by this plant. All of those cannabinoids have different effects on your body's endocannabinoid system. If you have just one molecule, you're not going to get the broad range of effects, the spectrum of effects that you would have from extraction that has all of those in it. And so it's the delicate art of processing to select for the molecules that are useful and to get rid of the molecules that we don't want that will have unintended side effects.
So this product came from a local farm.
Correct.
And you're going to turn it into oil. How do you do that?
So we use a process called supercritical CO2 extraction. That basically turns CO2 that you would get to carbonate beverages into a supercritical form, so it acts as a gas and a liquid at the same time. And then when you take your extract, it immediately evaporates so that there's nothing left but the pure oil.
And how can people trust that this product right here that just came fresh off of a farm is going to be pure by the time it makes it to the next step?
They should only trust in third-party lab testing results. So when we get the material from farms, it looks like this. So this is basically hemp that's been removed from the stems. And then before extraction, we mill it. So we get uniform extraction, sort of like coffee. And then as we move through, this is a oil fraction. So this is what comes directly out of the machine. This would be called crude oil. And then it's refined into a diluted Farm Bill compliant form. This one is an MCT oil as a carrier. And so this is what generally would be packaged by a producer and sold at a store. So this is hemp as it comes from the farmers. This is a bulk package that we receive from the farmer. The moisture content is kept low so that we can process it and we don't have any risk of mold. And this is milled and homogenized before extraction. So as you can see, it's a mixture of leaf and stem and flower, but we want to create a very small surface area to be extracted from. So that's done by using a mill. So this machine pulls material through this hose and then it grinds it against a blade here and puts it in this container. And then at that point, it's ready to be extracted. So this is a supercritical CO2 extractor. The way that it works, we load ground hemp into these columns here, and the machine is pressurized. It takes supercritical CO2, which is carbon dioxide gas, the same you would see in beverage dispensers, and it turns it into a supercritical state, which is where it acts as a gas and a liquid simultaneously, and that lets it act as a solvent for the CBD and pull it out. It only resides in this container, and so when you extract the material, the CO2 dissolves into the air. So the machine pressurizes these vessels, and the oil flows through the machine and is captured in these collectors. These produce 3 different grades of oil, and so we collect them separately, and they basically are homogenized for a final end product. The most important part of the process is that you have standardized testing throughout the entire cycle. So when the material comes in to be processed, it's tested for pesticides, it's tested for CBD content, as well as heavy metals, microbial contamination, that sort of thing. And those tests are conducted along the entire extraction process. So extraction, everything is concentrated. So if you have small amounts of, say, pesticides, it would become a large amount in extraction. So if you follow the process all the way through, you can be sure that a safe product is being created throughout the entire process, and the end product is clean and it is what you say it is. The product is tested at the time of arrival, and so if it is above the legal limit for THC for both the federal and the state law, we will reject that product and not process it. So Epidiolex was recently approved by the FDA. That's basically CBD isolate, and it was approved for pediatric hard-to-treat seizures. If I'm not mistaken, the cost of that drug is around $40,000 a year. So the FDA absolutely has a place in regulating this. The problem is that it is a plant and it is not consistent all of the time. So unlike a synthetic drug, this is going to have slight variations throughout the process. With the illegality of the cannabis plant in general, research has been unbelievably behind. Like I said, the cannabinoid system was recently discovered like 20 years ago. And so there was a new body system that was discovered, but there was no funding and no ability for universities to research those effects. And so for a drug to become FDA approved, the effects have to be understood, and you have to have an ability to create a perfectly consistent product to treat those effects. With more public support behind it, more people understanding exactly what this is and what it is not, the door can be opened for research and for standardization like other products. It's very difficult for consumers to know what they're actually getting unless they become informed about the process and they start demanding test results. So any other nutraceutical supplement, you're going to have a bottle with proven test results that are verifiable and traced all the way through their production. If on the bottle there's not some way to read the test results, you shouldn't buy that product. The bottle will say that it has a certain amount of CBD in it, and if you get that product tested, you can tell really quickly if it conforms to that. The main thing, and what I've seen, and I've done that personally for a few brands, is significant underdosing. So they'll say that there are 250 milligrams of CBD in this container, but really there's 100. So that's on the manufacturer, of course. The other things to look out for are the different type of extraction methods have different byproducts. Supercritical CO2 extraction leaves no byproducts whatsoever because at room temperature in normal conditions, it evaporates out just like your soda loses fizziness, right? With other extraction methods using solvents such as ethanol or butane, you have residual solvents that remain in the material. So you're consuming your CBD oil, but you're also consuming butane or ethanol, or any other sort of solvent. So that would be cannabinoids, solvents, pesticides, heavy metals, and microbials. So if it is processed using second-rate equipment, you may end up with heavy metal in the extract. And if it's processed in unsanitary conditions and not held properly, you can get microbial contamination in the same way you would get contamination of food. Third-party lab testing ensures that you have a product that is what you say it is, and that you won't have any of those effects.
What are the economical implications of being able to process this in the state, getting it from state farmers and sending it back out to other local processors?
So until recently, the CBD market was dominated by Canada, by China, by Russia. Hemp has been processed in the US for the past 6 years or so. And so in the Southeast specifically, we've only been able to get it from, say, Colorado, Oregon, states like that. But now that hemp is being processed in South Carolina, we hope to create a closed loop from South Carolina farmers, processed by South Carolinians, into products sold in South Carolina stores.
Are you happy with the product that you've been getting from the farms in the state? I
am blown away by the quality that the farmers have been able to produce. For their first year, it has been a massive scale issue, and they have overcome it admirably. I have a horticulture background, and I was expecting to see a lot of mold and mildew problems because of the humidity here. Luckily, I saw almost none of that. As far as insects and pests, it was sort of par for the course of the rest of the country. The only real problem here is, of course, hurricanes. That seems to hit the low country farmers pretty badly. The upstate farmers were luckily spared from most of the effects of Florence. But besides the weather, extreme weather events, I would say it's a very good climate for growing industrial hemp.